Pauline, you need to. You say you live. Where you say you live in Iowa? Is it?
Yeah, Southwest Ohio. So, like I said, it's a day trip to go to the museum. We went to the Art
Okay.
Encounter last summer too.
What county are you in Ohio?
Montgomery.
Okay, I grew up in Fairborn, so
Oh,
you
okay.
know where Fairborn
Every
is.
yeah, I've been through there many times.
Well, it's not very far for you to come down. I wish you would come down, and I'd be happy to spend several hours with you if you'd like. All the time you want. I'd love to talk to you sometime.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I don't know when we'll be there again. I mean, especially with gas prices right now. Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
planning to go anywhere for a while.
Yeah, do you still have a charter membership?
I'm pretty sure that's a lifetime thing, but
Yeah.
in moving several times, we've lost our cards. So,
Okay. Well, you can contact and get that. That gets you in free and free parking as well. If you can't find it, I can get you in. I
oh,
can't do much
cool.
about the parking, but I can get you in. But if you contact call the number and tell them that you can't find your cards, they'll look you up, verify you, and send you new cards. Probably they may charge you for that, but I don't know. Um,
All right.
just let them know. Come back though. Again, I don't like to debate flat earthers. I've never really gotten in a debate. I'm happy to discuss flat Earth with flat earthers. A lot of them are unwilling to talk to me, and you seem the type of person who would be willing to talk. So um, I certainly encourage you to come down and see us. We've changed a lot since you were here last. It's been what 15 years since you've been here, so a lot's
We've
happened.
gone a couple times before. I mean, since then,
Hmm.
they put in the slack lines and some other things.
Hmm.
But yeah, still got pictures of when they had, like they would have go down a hallway and there'd be a dinosaur head sitting there.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so yeah, I'm just to let you know, not interested in arguing or debating either. I like to just present perspectives and information and let people do with it what they want. I'm really not. I don't like to argue, but it just happens, so I deal with it.
Did you go to any of the FEICs,
FEICs?
Flat Earth International Conventions?
No, no. See, I don't even know what they are, what that stood for because I never been to one.
Yeah, yeah. It's a shame they don't have them anymore. It's been 2.5 years since the last one, and apparently there won't be any more. And I went to all three that were in the United States, and I didn't know how I would be received when I went to the first one. I was a little apprehensive. A couple people spotted me and recognized me, so the cat got out of the bag. I was trying to kind of sneak around, I guess, but it surprised me. Most of the people were very nice to me. Some of the organizers, Robbie Davidson was very nice. Rick Hummer's been just absolutely super. Um, Rob Skiba, he and I had a good relationship as well. So, the people in the seats, I talked to many of them, and they were just as nice as they could be. I was really taken aback. I was afraid that I would get bad treatment. I really only got bad treatment from one person, and you already mentioned him, so there's no need to go
Right.
there. And one other person, one other prominent person you would know, in fact, probably do know. He was a little testy with me, but that's okay. I can roll with that. So I think it's good when people can have big disagreements, but yet not be disagreeable in a discussion. And I think so many times, as I've observed, this whole thing gets into a shouting match, and I'm just not
Right.
interested in that at all.
Right. I really prefer to read what somebody says because I can go back over things and I can find where they said something. I can search on it. It's much harder to do with audio. And so I've done, most of my quote unquote upbringing in anything to do with creationism or earth shape or anything was written at first. And
Mhm.
yeah, I just think it's easier and you take more time. You actually look at what's being said and go back and make sure you didn't misunderstand and people don't talk over each other. So yeah, that's just my preferred format is in writing. But I'm glad you came. I mean, it's odd that here we were, just happened to be on the topic. I'm rarely on this panel. They have ladies' night on Fridays, and I'm on that. But other than that, I'm usually not here. So This is, I'm
The way
sure,
I
not a
approach,
coincidence.
yeah,
I'm
the
sorry.
way I approach this channel is I sometimes put it on in the background when I'm doing something that doesn't require my full attention, and just kind of keep one ear on it, looking for something that's interesting to me. A lot of it's not, but occasionally it is, and so I've been in and out. I get up early in the morning. I've been in and out over the past 4.5 hours, and I made a
Oh,
few comments just to kind of needle people a little bit. And I'm glad I'm glad I did needle Helio. I got his attention. That's good. I like that. Um, but the thing is, the reason why I came in is because I was invited. Helio suggested that I come in, and you thought it was a good idea. So that's why I'm here. Um, I tell people I choose when, where, and how to discuss flat Earth. And some people have trying to a number of times have tried to get me to come in on this channel, and I just want to choose who I talk to. You said that you mostly read stuff. Have you read some of my material?
yeah, it may have been a while though.
Okay.
I just don't have as much time as I used to, but uh, yeah, I mean, you're a well-known name in Answers in Genesis, for example. So I can't say when's the last time, though. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm terrible with keeping track of what day it is half the time.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the evolution cruncher?
Who are you asking?
Either of you?
I
I
haven't.
I haven't either.
Because it was around. You're talking about Hovind. I'm not sure if this had anything to do with him, but the Creation Society and stuff like that. There's a bunch of stuff like that. But there's a book called The Evolution Cruncher that's done by crap. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's on a website. It's free. It's a book about how to see that evolution is not true. It's a really,
Mhm.
really in-depth creationist, targeted type book. But I should have had the book in my hand. I'm sorry.
Well, Paula, when did you become convinced the Earth is flat?
I'm going to say about 7 years ago now,
It would
six or
be
7 years ago.
2015.
20,
Okay.
yeah.
And can you tell me a little bit about how that happened? What convinced you? How long it took? Those kind of. I'm always curious about how people became flat earthers. To me, that's very important. I'd like to hear you. Just tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it wasn't a big leap or anything like that or a shock. I always remembered reading Genesis and going, wait a minute, it says that the sun, moon, and stars are in the firmament. Well, how big is the firmament? Where does the firmament begin and end? Because the sun, moon, and stars are in it. And I never had a satisfactory answer. I tried to imagine, first of all, that maybe there's ice in the water in the form of ice really far out of the edge of the universe, where would explain where comets come from, for example. If I'm not even sure they still believe comets are made of ice, but at that time, in my teens, that's what I was trying to figure out. But then, so years later, when I was online, I tend to look into, whether it's Bible study or anything else, I look for the difficult questions. That's just my nature. In any kind of Sunday school or Bible study, I was always looking for the difficult passages and trying to figure them out. And so, quote unquote, conspiracy, I really don't like the term, it's become negatively loaded. But I got into that. I used to watch shows on UFOs and Bigfoot and ancient tech and all those things. Then I got into alternative health. And so I was, then chemtrails and all these things. I look at these things. I don't necessarily accept everything I look at, but I love to look at it and see what it's about and try to understand it. And so it was after 9/11 that I really ramped up my investigation into everything I was being told in mainstream. So I began to question a lot of things. And I don't think that skepticism is bad as long as it's quote unquote healthy. And so I began to be in message boards where all these theories were talked about, and eventually flat Earth came up. And at first I was like, well, that's one you don't hear much. Let me look into that. And I noticed, first of all, that even the most wild conspiracy theory websites or message boards flat Earth was shunned. It was shoved into the corner. You couldn't talk about flat Earth anywhere else in the server but there. And I thought that is very strange, because why would a website, a message board, allow you to talk about Bigfoot and aliens, but not flat Earth? What
Yep.
is it about flat Earth? And so I looked into it more. Reverse psychology had made me want to be more curious about it. And I was hearing science arguments. I was not hearing wild speculation. I was going, this is what we observe. This doesn't make sense. And so eventually I came to do some videos on my channel where I just say challenging standard cosmology. I don't say Earth is flat. I say, this doesn't make sense. I watched the sun for a couple of summers. I took many, many pictures and videos and watched sunspots. I watched the moon and made some observations and just put it out that these things of the standard cosmology just don't make sense to me. That doesn't mean they don't work. It means I don't understand how they work. And so when it came to, is the Earth flat, I said, biblically and scientifically, there is nothing that says I must believe it's a spinning ball in outer space. The Bible presents it as flat and stationary. I mentioned Michael Heiser earlier. I know that some on the creationist realm really despise him. But nevertheless, I think he made a fair assessment that he believes the Hebrew presents Earth as flat and stationary, even though he himself doesn't believe that that's the case. He calls it theological messaging. But these things, when it comes to consistency between young Earth creationism and flat Earth, I think it is the more consistent interpretation theologically to say that it is flat and young than to say it's one and not the other. Heiser rejects both, of course, but so really it was kind of I just looked at it and said, there are some serious problems in the standard cosmology. And I believe at this point that the burden of proof is on heliocentrism and on the idea that the Bible must in some way bow to what is currently believed to be scientific fact. So I arrive at it by curiosity and testing things on my own as much as I'm able. And, still always being open to any kind of decent argument and evidence and scientific method that would prove otherwise.
So there was no aha moment, something that really clinched it for you then?
Not really. It's we like to use the phrase preponderance of evidence, and just spending time listening to both sides. If I went by behavior, I wouldn't be either.
Would you be more of a globe Earth skeptic than a flat Earth believer?
I'm actually, well, that's how I started as a globe Earth skeptic. But I'm to the position now where I believe the burden of proof is on heliocentrism and ball Earth to prove itself. Otherwise, that's my position at the time. Yeah.
Were there any particular flat Earth authors that, or videos, or writings that you saw early on that you can remember that kind of were important to you at the early time?
Well, like a lot of people, I started with some videos by Mark Sargent and Eric Dubay. What kind of people they are, is irrelevant to this question, but I just look at what they presented. And what they did was raise questions, So I wouldn't point to one person and say, this is the person who convinced me.
Okay. I'm dying to ask you a question, or somebody like you this question. I've noticed among many, not all, certainly not all, but many flat earthers, and on this channel as well, a lot of profanity and crude language.
Yeah.
And I've heard it from people who profess to be born again people, and that alarms me. It concerns me. I'm just trying to figure these people out. I've never known Christians to talk that way. What's with that?
I think it's an online thing that people are. It's just like people in cars that are absolute jerks when they're in their car. Behind the screen, the real them comes out. And yeah, it's a problem. There's a lot of good flat Earth shows, for example, that I won't share because they're so vulgar. But there are a lot of Christians who have potty mouths, and that really bothers me. I mean, I have to be, that's why I'm not online that much in a live chat, because I can't, in good conscience, support by my presence that kind of behavior. I think the standards have dropped way too low in the Christian community for controlling the tongue, which is an absolute clear biblical command for Christians.
That.
Yeah, and keeping our minds out of the gutter. They make an awful lot. You probably don't see a lot of the crude memes that Christians post. And it's to the point I have pretty much given up trying to find Christian fellowship online to any great extent because of that issue. So yeah, it's a huge problem. I agree.
Do you belong to a local church body?
Yes.
Okay. Do they know that you believe the Earth is flat?
They have the pastor has a vague idea of it, and
It's not the sort of thing you share and talk about much in church, then, I guess.
No, it's. I have to say, this church is very good at the basics of salvation, but they do not go beyond it. I mean, they don't even talk about prophecy.
Well, that's another concern I have. Is I see a lot of Christian flat earthers that end up finally not going to church anywhere, not really associating with believers, and that's a very grave concern. There seems to be that their family that they associate with is online, and we just talked about the crudeness and potty mouth that's there quite a bit, and that's the wrong direction for a believer to take, is to give up a local church.
That seems to be part and parcel of what we could loosely call a conspiracy mentality, is that everything's a lie, that's throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I try to argue, people question in general, not just Christians, our history as we know it. And they'll say 1,000 years is missing. And I've done videos saying why I don't agree with that. But the problem is that Christians in conspiracy realms, not just flat earth, I'm going to say, have indeed decided that all church of any sort is evil and they shouldn't be a part of it. And they don't seem to be aware of the passages that say, like Hebrews 10:25, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together. And all the more as you see the day approaching, as more and more important for Christians to gather. But what I'm seeing is when they do, there's a Christian section here, there's an awful lot of acrimony and rancor about minor problems or disagreements over prophecy. Or I even did a debate with a friend of Nathan Thompson's over whether Christians should eat meat. There's a lot of hostility on these things. And so even when Christians gather, it's a problem because of how they act when they're not in the Bible study. In the Bible study, they can hold their tongues, but outside of that, it's the Wild West. And yeah, I have been grieving all these 7 years for what I see as a complete silence or neutralization of Christians in the flat earth community. I did a video early on saying, you know what, this is the door is wide open. I've seen people coming to Christ because of flat earth that wouldn't come because of any other reason. Even our church, the pastor said one day a local came up to him that wasn't even a member, wasn't even a Christian, and said, oh no, I believe the earth is flat and I think there's a God. So this is something I've never seen in all my years of people looking at flat earth, being convinced, and then going, hey, there's a God. What grieves me is that the Christians in flat earth have been utterly silent on all the things that are filling that religious void. They're going into New Age, they're going into Gnosticism, they're going into all sorts of what you and I would consider error. And the Christians have not spoken up. They sit idly by and sing the praises of people who routinely mock Christ and the Bible and call him zombie Jesus and still want to be friends with these people, and I just grieve at that. So even though I can speak with some knowledge on both flat Earth and Christianity, I don't do a lot of it because of all that.
Okay. Well, yeah, it seems to me a lot of flat earthers say there are no atheists among flat earthers, but many of the types of theology that I see flat earthers embracing many times is it's far from biblical Christianity. It's many times it's sort of a touch by an angel sort of theology. You know, God only wants you to know that He exists, and He's good enough with that. If you acknowledge He's Creator, that's all you need to know, and that falls woefully short of the standard set up in Scripture.
Right.
There's more to it than that. And as you said, I've seen people who professing Christians who've abandoned fellowship with fellow believers and gone off into weird directions. Sounds like you've got a pretty good handle on this, pretty good balance, which I think is refreshing to see. I'm glad we're having this discussion. I
Thank
hope
you.
that
Yeah,
you can spread the good news where you are, and
it's a
encourage people.
challenge. Yeah, it's a challenge, but I do think for some reason, whether I like it or not, it's my mission field. So here I am.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
For
When you read Genesis 1, do you not see that the earth should be flat, plain? An up and a down, not a ball? Because when I read Genesis 1, I see it separating waters from the waters. I see that as being one up and one down, not an in and out, you know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of confused.
Well, the waters were separated on day 2, above and below. Below the Rakia expanse firmament, clear enough. I think it's talking about waters on the earth today, on the surface of the earth. The waters above, that's the tricky part. We go off in all sorts of directions about what that is, and it's a bit vague. It's a bit ambiguous.
As it probably should be, I think.
But I don't think it addresses the shape in itself. I mean, you'll look at it, and I don't think the day 2 account and the other days as well clearly state the Earth shape at all. Again, it's ambiguous. I think the cosmology discussed in the Bible, the first chapter of Genesis particularly, is a bit vague. The cosmogony is not. The cosmogony is the study of the history and origin of the universe. It's pretty clear, I think, but the cosmology is a bit vague. And I've discussed this, written about it before, why I think that's the case.
I might say too.
Many people
go
come
ahead.
in to this with a lot of baggage. They want to read Genesis 1, the teaching that the Earth is a globe, and you have other people who want to read Genesis 1 as teaching the Earth is flat. And I think both camps are wrong in their approach. Go ahead, Paul. You're going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, for example, of more on the globe skeptic side in Genesis 1, where the Earth had nothing to orbit around before the sun was made. And yet there was day and night, and that's also still an issue of there was light before there was anything else, light before the sun. And I won't get into that right now, but the thing is that there are things that just don't line up. You know how we say that evolution and creation, we cannot be blended together because everything's out of order and it just doesn't work. Well, I think the same thing is true with the heliocentric model, where there was nothing for the Earth to orbit, and yet it had day and night before the sun was made. And then we have Joshua's long day and some other things where the way I look at it for Joshua's long day, for example, is that if the Earth had been spinning and the sun and moon stopped, then the Earth had to stop spinning suddenly. And this would have a noticeable effect on the surface. Yeah, there would be a tangential force on everything on the surface of the Earth if it stopped suddenly. The explanation, the response to that I've heard from William Lane Craig, I think it was in that video that I posted earlier, was that it might have been him, might have been somebody else, but that the response would be, well, God is a God of miracles, and he could have kept that from happening. But to my mind, that's an ad hoc explanation. When the Bible just clearly says it stopped, the sun stopped here, the moon stopped there, and it was stopped for 24 hours. So that's another question about the heliocentric interpretation of Genesis 1, just to give a couple examples.
Danny?
Yes.
I came in late, so I just want to, you might have already addressed this, but is your position that you believe that you live on a spinning globe? And if so, what is your reason for holding that position?
Oh, we haven't gotten to that at all. I'm just having a chat with Paula, getting to know her a little better.
Okay, well, I'm going to go into a bad area. I'm driving.
No.
That question.
It's no secret. It's no secret that.
Time to answer it, and if it could be addressed at some time, that would be great.
Okay, fair enough. But it's no secret that I believe the Earth is a globe. So most people seem to know that. So we can get that eventually if we care to. I don't want to debate it. I'll answer questions and discuss, but I'm not wanting to debate anything really with anybody today.
To be honest, here's what
I wasn't asking for a debate. I was just asking for reasons. I don't think that's too much.
No, I think we're curious about why you believe what you believe. That's really what it is.
Hold on.
Yeah.
See,
Big Lion, you're roboting.
Until he answers sake.
Yeah, you're roboting really bad. Sorry. Oh,
well, I actually recruited Danny in tonight to talk about this because he's been here before, and he's also been to the Flat Earth Conference in Dallas and was confronted and wouldn't answer any questions. But at the same time, Dan, we want you to be here to answer questions now. Now, the globe question, what Mary Mom was asking you, why do you think the Earth is a globe? That's fine. But we also know you're involved with Answers in Genesis, and we're some of us, including me, are familiar with the scientists, quote unquote scientists, astrophysicists that are familiar or that are involved in the Answers in Genesis stuff. We know what's going on. Well, not entirely what's going on there, but so if you're involved with those guys, show us the globe. We've been looking for that. We've been looking for it for a long time.
Okay, I'll be happy to talk about that. I thought we'd get to it eventually. I just don't want to rush it.
I know. I mean, you and Paula were talking about the Bible and stuff. The Bible. We can get into the origin stories. We can do that. Quite directly. But where's this? How did God make Earth first, and then turn the whole universe around it? Because that's what it says in the Bible. Earth was first.
Oh, absolutely, Earth was first. No doubt about that.
All right, go ahead and tell us.
Okay, what? Tell us what. Several questions were asked. What question would we address first?
All right, so I'm sorry if I interrupted anyone else. Go ahead. Somebody.
I think mainly what people were asking is why what you find most convincing that heliocentric model as it's known today is the correct one.
Okay, don't confuse question of heliocentrism or geocentrism with the shape of the Earth. They're two different issues.
Right.
And I think flat earthers confuse the two quite a bit.
How so?
Globe Earth has been widely known in the West for more than 2 millennia, but that time was mostly geocentric. It wasn't until about 4 centuries ago that you got the big switch from geocentrism to heliocentrism. So I like to divorce those two questions as much as possible. You mentioned earlier, Paul, about being skeptical about things, and I agree that's a good thing as long as it's a healthy sort of skepticism. I realized my calling as an astronomer over a half century ago. I was in high school, and I went through a lot of things quickly, and one of them was, What do I know and how do I know it? One of the first questions I asked myself was, how do we know the Earth is a globe? Believe it or not, I asked that question over 50 years ago as a high school student. And I've investigated that question then, and many times over the years with my interest in the flat Earth movement starting 6 years ago, I've gone back and reinvestigated it all over again. But when I'm asked about that question, how do I know the Earth is a globe? I go back to two classics that I like because they go way back. Aristotle listed them in 350 BC. And it's one of these ones that you can do for yourself, and I've done many times myself. And I'm sure I'm not telling people anything new here, but I'll go over it anyway. The shape of the Earth's shadow during a lunar eclipse is always a circle. I've seen.
Hold on,
All
hold
right,
on.
hold-
Hey, let's be gentle. Everybody, don't, nobody.
Yeah, let
I had a
him
feeling
finish.
everybody's about to bombard him.
Yeah,
Everybody
let him
just
finish because
chill.
I want to tear a strip off him when he's done.
Yeah.
So keep going, please.
No, just everybody chill. I know. I have a feeling it was just about to get really bad.
But
Go
I
ahead,
want you
Danny.
to know that I want to ask this guy a question.
No.
you're not answering nothing.
No.
Later,
Let him
when he's
finish.
finished. Yeah,
No.
when he's finished. No?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just let him finish.
Yeah,
We already know what he's going to say. Go ahead and let
sure.
him
Go.
say it. Shit.
For the record, I'm laughing. I'm quite amused by this. If you're trying to get my goat or trying to upset me, trust me, you're not.
Okay, cool. I don't want you to leave. I just want everybody to chill.
No, I'm not offended. I'm just amused. It really was funny. Okay.
It's just a little.
Yeah, remember, the dogs are still being held at bay, so the offensiveness might come later.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so you're going 350 years ago. What were you saying?
Well, 350 BC. Talking about the shape of the Earth's shadow during a lunar eclipse. And I've seen more than a dozen total lunar eclipses. I've seen many other partials, and it's always been that case. Now, I'm sure people will snipe at this about what causes a lunar eclipse and so forth. We can get back to that if you wish. But the other argument I like to use, and I just did it this past week, again, I've done it countless times, is as you travel northward, the stars on the celestial meridian move southward in the sky. Stars in the north rise up. You can't see farther south. Stars in the south disappear as you go northward. And if you go southward, the reverse happens. Here where I live in northern Kentucky, I can never see the star Canopus. It's a couple degrees below the horizon. It's the second brightest star in the sky, so it's pretty easy to spot. If it's above the horizon, the sky's clear. When I lived in South Carolina for many, many years, I could glimpse it on winter evenings for just a short time because it barely got above the horizon. I needed a good exposure to the south to see it. And then this week, I was in Florida, several places in Florida. I was in Hollywood just a couple of nights ago, and there I could see Canopus very easily. It was 10 degrees up in the sky, just as I expect if the Earth is a globe. I've been to the southern hemisphere a number of times. I've seen Canopus nearly directly overhead. Polaris is not visible at all. This is what I expect to see if the Earth is a globe. Every 60 nautical miles, I travel north or south, the whole sky shifts a degree. That is not what I expect on a flat Earth.
How does that imply that the Earth is a globe when the stars that you're talking about could be much closer to the ground or Earth that you're standing on?
Yeah. Well, as you do travel, if they're close to the ground, like a few thousand miles up, as you travel north and south, they're not going to move in this monotonic term that they have. For every.
Why not?
Well, simple trigonometry demands otherwise. If you give me the height of the star, how high above the Earth the star is, and you give me...
I think that's the way ships travel. Ships travel that way. They do simple trigonometry.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that
There may
as
be
you,
an
if you,
alternate explanation that you might want to look into. Flat earthers have shown objects disappearing bottom first, similar to those stars that you can't see after you get too far away from them simply by getting closer to the surface. So it looks
Could
like
I?
even over a flat surface, compressed visual angle is enough to make those stars that you're talking about disappear, no curve necessary. So it may be fallacious for you to infer that just because objects disappear, say bottom first over, the surface, that you're looking at a ball that's obstructing what's beyond as opposed to a flat surface
Sure,
with compressed visual angle.
that's what I was getting at, Lemon. It's like the reason I can't see that star is because the ball is in the way. Uh, Danny, I mean, do you really think that's why you can't see that star? I mean,
yes,
okay, well then you can think that, but you can't prove it.
We have an alternative hypothesis, of compressed visual angle or something optical obstructing what's beyond over a flat surface. So the surface becomes irrelevant at that point. It's just something optical.
and what is the nature of that effect you're appealing to?
There's
It's
really
called
been hard to
distance.
figure
It's called
out
distance. It's a
diffraction,
really,
perspective.
you're
Yes.
too far away to see it. It's a certain
Angular
distance above your
resolution.
head. Yeah,
Yeah.
angular resolution is a certain distance above your head, then it recedes toward the horizon, and then you can't see it anymore because it's too far away.
I
Very
think
Well,
simple. Very simple
let
concept.
Lemon finish his point.
Just looking down a hallway, the stuff above the level of the eyes appears to ramp downward. The stuff below the level of the eyes appears to ramp upward. One would assume that these two visual zones would compress together into a line, and there's your horizon. There you go. So it just looks like basically perspective. That's it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take off. I'm gonna trust that you guys, are gonna be able to talk to him about reality and how our Earth is clearly flat and stationary. You don't need the Bible to show that, even though the Bible clearly portrays a flat and stationary Earth. There's no curvature anywhere, no scientific, testable, repeatable proof of curvature anywhere, and yet you're a person who, Christians listen to you, is my understanding. I'm only saying this to you for an ethical reason because from what people have told me about you, I've said it before. You're leading people astray. You're spreading lies about the global cult religion that is not scientific, definitely not a biblical position that holds. And it literally, frankly, you disgust me and sicken me that your level of sophistry and to have a position of influence to lead trusting people astray and spread lies to them. If you really don't know, then listen to these good people explain the scientific reasons behind it, because it is an objective, rational fact that the globe model is a complete failure and has no scientific or mathematical basis to it whatsoever. For you to pretend it has some biblical basis that you can hold that position and say the Bible is truth, I cannot have your kind of discussion with a person like that. So that's really all I got to say to you. But, have a great day. These people will be much nicer to you. Don't worry.
Thank you for your time. I think the main thing is having compassionate, education with people. We used to be Globers ourselves, and we used to peddle this model ourselves. But then we looked at the flat Earth, evidence, the logical arguments with the laser test, infrared long distance imaging that appeared to be breaking down the globe, and we started thinking, maybe it's a little bit flatter than we thought. I think you also mentioned the eclipse, sir. That was an evidence that I accepted at one time too. But sometimes you get a curved shadow from something else other than, say, the revolving Earth. I think people use the eclipse to say that the Earth is a revolving ball, that it's throwing its shadow to cause, say, a lunar eclipse. But there could be something else up there causing that shadow. And it could be, round for many reasons. Maybe the object casting the shadow is round, or maybe the shadow is being cast onto a round object, vice versa. But the Earth being a revolving ball casting the shadow may not be necessary, especially if the Earth is a flat, motionless plane. There may be another possibility even with that. Some people talk about dark stars, these semi translucent bodies that we don't normally see, but are occasionally somewhat visible during eclipse or when they get in front of other objects,
How about we stick to a
possibilities.
single argument one at a time? I mean,
That's the eclipse argument.
come on.
That was, I think you mentioned the eclipse thing.
No, he
Why
didn't.
it's
He actually was just talking about stars near the
No, he did.
horizon.
He said lunar eclipse.
Oh, lunar eclipse. Ugh.
Yeah, and that's one thing. That's why I jumped in. It's like I find it weird that people would say that the ground under your feet would block your view of things in the sky. I think doesn't that sound a little odd?
Yeah, I want to jump in and say also that what he came here, what he wanted to do here is just explain what he believes and why. He didn't want to debate, so I was hoping we could just let him, when he answer the questions.
Yeah. So
Did you have any other things you wanted to say?
hold on. I want to explain something. Everyone, hold on. I want to explain something. Listen, Danny came here, and he knows we know pretty much everything about eclipses and patterns of stars. Everything. We're all on the same page as far as that goes. It's not necessarily a debate, or unless you don't want that to be that way, right, Danny? Or I mean, if you have something to offer as far as like showing us how it couldn't work on a flat Earth, it's weird. It's really strange to me. I don't even know why. It's like flat earthers can't even see the globe anymore. So I don't know. It's kind of weird to me.
Well, I guess if he wanted to, explain anything else from his side or whatever and have an open discussion, okay, that's fine. Sir, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Oh, well, originally I wanted Paula and Danny to have the talk.
Yeah.
And
so to everybody, now that Helio said that, let's yield the floor back to the people. We're having a fruitful discussion before it got completely side rails, and now we're not hearing from Danny at all. We're just hearing ourselves talk to each other. Okay, so pay attention to what's going on, get an appraisal of the situation, sit back, listen, and enjoy. And when it's your turn, you'll know.
Is Paula still here?
Yeah. I've been typing in other chats in the meantime, going, well, this will burn out eventually.
Okay. As I said, I didn't come in to debate. I just wanted to chat.
Right.
As it turns out, I've been here quite a while. I need to go out and take care of some stuff. I'm not running away. My wife just came in and handed me a note. Are you about ready to go out soon? So we had to run some errands. But I've enjoyed talking to you, Paula. And
same here.
And I may hang around. If I come, I'll be back later. Maybe I'll drop in and see what's going on. I'll leave my link open here if you'll let me stay on, and maybe I'll stick my Periscope up later on today when I get back. But I've enjoyed, and Helio, thank you for keeping the peace for a while. It was fun, and I've enjoyed it.
I'm going to go ahead and give it, Danny. I'm going to go ahead and give Danny the Globe Earth role. I mean, there's obviously no way we're going to change his mind, but I'm just going to give him Globe Earth. So,
and I was actually going to go do other things for the day when you showed up. So it's okay if you got to go. I don't want to be one of those people who says you're leaving because you're afraid, because I leave things because, there's this biblical concept of shaking the dust. I leave a lot because of that, but so I understand. I mean, we've got other things to do in life besides hanging around Discord, so no problem.
Yeah, sure.
If you want to chat,
go ahead.
If you want to get my contact information, I'd suggest, I don't want to give it out here, of course, but Paula, you can always call the museum, ask to get through to me. You may not, but you can leave a message, and I can certainly get back with you, email, phone call, whatever you're comfortable with. But I'll be happy to continue this discussion with you here or elsewhere. So.
Sure, and also within Discord, you can send a direct message, a DM. I can send you a friend request, so that can happen. Let me see, add friend, and that should have a request.
You're assuming that I understand how to use Discord. I may figure it out. We'll
Well,
see.
you should see a notification pop up somewhere.
Paula, he's not hard to find on Google.
Right. I just thought it'd be, easier for any kind of a quick contact, it'd be pretty easy in Discord, but it should notify you somewhere when there's a message waiting for you. So.
Okay, I'll try to do that then. But anyway, thanks again. I appreciate it. I got to run, and thanks again for setting this up, Helio. It's been good.
Yeah, no problem. Danny, if you want to jump in anytime, I give you what's the Globe Earth role on here. You can jump in and have a conversation with us anytime.
Okay, appreciate that, whole Helio.
No problem.
See y'all later. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good day.
He didn't leave.
Was he? I'm sorry, I came late to the party, but was he taking the tack that the globe Earth is biblical or whatever? Did I hear that correctly?
Hold on.
But let's just for the record. Usually, when you come late to the party, you wait to see the tempo of the party before you start jumping on the dance floor.
I guess I am a bit of a great crasher. I was just trying to see what his take on the subject was specifically.
His take was he was in the YouTube chat earlier, like 2 hours ago, and it took me a while to get him in here to talk because he's Danny Faulkner. He's with the Answers in Genesis. He's an astrophysicist, and I wanted it. Answers in Genesis is a Christian. You know what Answers in Genesis is, right?
Yeah, you would.
Anyway, so he came in here. He was talking to us. He still hasn't left yet. He's probably still listening, but that's cool because I've been a big fan of Answers in Genesis work for a long time. But yeah, so you came in or whoever came in. I was like, hey, I'd love to hear a conversation between him and Paula about flat Earth, and then everybody started freaking jumping in. Which if you just jump in and you don't know what's going on, then that's just that's kind of typical. But anyway, that's Danny Faulkner. He's an astrophysicist there, and he's affiliated with Answers in Genesis, and so it's really it's a privilege for us to have a relationship here with him to talk to us here on the Flat Earth Discord. He's been to for some reason he went to the Flat Earth conference in Dallas. He was the guy that Nathan Thompson confronted. And he's like,
Yeah.
what are you doing here?
Yeah, you guys, Helio, you were talking with someone else about, there was a video or audio clip you guys were playing and it interested me, so I hopped on, and then you had said that you thought it would be cool if I talked to Faulkner, and then he showed up, and he wanted to talk to me because I'm not going to start an argument. And
it's because from Answers in Genesis, you're going to talk about Bible stuff, right? And
right, and that was the whole point. I mean, of him coming on. Why him and not some other astronomer? Which I'm pretty sure he says he's an astronomer, not an astrophysicist. I'm not sure the difference.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, an astrophysicist. Yeah, there is a difference, but yeah, my bad. He's an astronomer.
Yeah, and that was the whole reason he was on, is because he was invited, because I happened to be here, and you've been wanting the two of us to talk, and so we got a little bit of chance to do that, which also, thanks for setting that up. But I think if we do that again, we'll have to have a more controlled, conversation. So
hey, maybe since you have a rapport with him now, you can do it on your channel, and we can share it here too, or we don't have a lot of people like with the opportunity to interrupt. Which, this happens all the time. We always interrupt each other.
Right.
Here, maybe you'll be able to have an actual an open dialogue with him one day. Just record it and put it up on your channel, and then we can share it here.
Yeah, or do a different live channel here. I think you would get a lot more viewers. I mean, they talk about him here all the time, and standard cosmology in general. So I would think it would be more interest
Oh, but
on.
it's just like it's like him. Like he's like one of the anti-globers. It's not like anyone here is going to change his mind, right?
Right.
Because he's one of the anti-globers that go to flat Earth conferences. You know what I'm saying?
You
Just
mean
like all the anti-flat earthers that go to conferences and then they'll show up on our channels and all the time or make videos and it's like it can't be flat Earth. But that's all right. I'm not going to talk about him when he's not here. But actually, I mean,
Well,
he seems like a nice guy. It's cool.
yeah, and I think it's commendable that he's even looking and spending time listening. That's the first step, is just to listen.
Yeah, well, he's doing more than listening. He's going to flat Earth conferences. So
Yeah, well, still listening. But I think there must be something commendable about even going that far, because most people wouldn't bother. That's why most of the time, anybody who claims to be a professor, we just say, yeah, right, because professors typically don't have the time or interest in hanging around a YouTube channel like that.
yeah, but
So,
he's got credentials.
right,
We know who he is.
right. Which is very unusual, which is why I'm like, yeah, we need to have a slow, controlled conversation and not a typical brawl, because that's just going to push people away. But I need to go too, so thanks for having me. I'll be back another time.
All right, thanks, Paula. That was fun.
Sure. Thank you.
Talk to you later. Anyway, since all you guys ran off Danny Faulkner,